Welcome back, guys, for another video here. First and foremost, let me apologize for my voice. I'm a little congested. I'm a little under the weather. I don't have the coronavirus, thank God, with all this panic and stuff out there. But again, the reason I'm making this video today is recently I had one of my students who signed up for an Ameritrade account and had her ThinkorSwim, and she had mentioned to me that she's having difficulty trying to put our patterns in effect by using the paper trading account because there's a delay that comes as a default, right? I think it's delayed 15 or 20 minutes. So I had mentioned to her all she had to do was go up here to the support chat, click that, and that she would be able to request that they would enable real-time data on her account. So she said she did that, and they came back and they said that they don't do that unless you put $500 in a live account, which is really kind of unheard of for me, right? I've never known this in the past, but again, it's not a big deal, right? So I started thinking there's one awesome way that we can get around this entire thing, and that's using this on demand function. So if you log into your live account, right, not the paper trading, right? If you log into your live account, ThinkorSwim offers this on demand. So it doesn't matter whether you have real time or delayed data or anything at all. You can trade and test your patterns or get repetitions on things that you look forward to just by clicking this on demand function right here. So when you click the on demand function, it comes up and it tells you you just started the Think on demand that allows you to back test your patterns, and it tells you exactly the capabilities that includes here, right? I do know that there are certain things that are not available in the on demand, such as the flatten, right? So you can click OK, right? So right now you'll know you're in the on demand because up here in the left hand corner you have on demand. And if you have signed the appropriate paperwork, it should say real time data. Then again, maybe not. I don't know. I don't really think it's going to matter. If it does say delayed, then yes, you need to get with them to figure out a way to enable real time data. But the nice thing about this is that you can click this calendar right here, right off to the right hand side, and you can pick any date in the past, right? So let's say that you missed Friday, right? Like you couldn't trade on Friday. So maybe you want to select Friday. So you can select Friday here, and you can actually tell it the time. So you have to make sure that your time here is separated by semicolon, or I'm sorry, by colons, right? So let's say, and it's military time. So let's say that I wanted to work on trading the open at, and we'll give ourselves a minute, right? So right now, this when we hit go, it's going to take us to 9:29 a.m. On March 13th, trading day, right? So you can still have your same watch list that you would use, that you would play for the day, or maybe that's on your watch list. So and then you can click go, right? So this is 1 minute before the market. Now this is our daily chart. So let's change over to our intraday chart, right? So let's say I'm watching. Let's say I want to watch TVIX because I know this is a big day, right? So we see TVIX got up to $401.86 in the pre-market, and it had come all the way back down. So this is a great way to test certain patterns, right? So this says here, this should be playing. Why isn't it playing? Okay, so it should be going. Maybe I want to. Okay, so let's just. So we got the market open, right? Let's change this to a 2 minute chart. So as we see, now the market's starting. So let's just say that we wanted to get in on this. So just so you know, you can add a different bias and stuff. But let's just say we're using market only, right? So you can do your simple, um, good lord, I forgot how awesome this trade was. So we go ahead and hit market, and of course, for whatever reason, ThinkorSwim does not. In the first 5 minutes, I always, this is one of the issues I have with it. First 5 minutes, it always gives me. It looks like I get a weird fill. So remember, we put our buy in down here, right? So we're moving all over the place now. So we'll see what fill they give us. One second here. Hopefully, at some point, we'll get something, right? Or the other thing. So it looks like we got the. I don't know. I don't think we got the fill that we did. But anyways, right? So naturally, the first thing I always like to do is I like to set my stop loss. For this, it would be 316. I mean, that's a lot of risk here, right? So you can do what you can either scroll like this. To me, I think that's a pain in the ass. You can right click on your chart and do a sell, right? And change it. Click edit and then change this to a stop, and there you go. And then you can actually, you know what? We need to edit this. So we can hit cancel and replace, change it to our actual amount of 300, confirm it. So we have our stop loss set here. Yeah, there's no way I would have taken a trade like this, especially at this position size, at this price. It's obviously going to recover back. But again, this is what's so nice about this, right? So let's say that maybe you're not sure, like you've got your stop loss here, right? So maybe you want to see how this trade would play out, and are you right or wrong, right? So you can change the time, you can click go, and now it'll show you. Well, look how awesome that would have been, right? Like we would have made some serious money had we made that trade the way it was. So I would go ahead and I move my stop loss up to lock in profits. But this is what's nice about it, right? So again, just to show you certain things won't work in ThinkorSwim, right? So if I do flatten, it'll tell me, yep, ain't gonna work, right? So I can't do it. So guess what? Now I would just have to sell market, right? So that's what's nice, right? So maybe this is what you want to do when you want to get better repetitions. Maybe you're looking for a certain pattern. Maybe you played a stock and it was a loser for you, or maybe your execution was not great, but you want more practice at it, right? So you can go back to any point in time here. I'm not sure how far it goes back, but let's say if I wanted to go back to January 2nd, right? I wanted to go back to January 2nd at 9:45, and I click go. All right, so we'll see PBIX back in January 2nd. What's $48, right? Not bad. So maybe let's take something here. Let's say I want to take Apple. Now remember, the one thing I like to do, I like to set my stops right when I buy, right? So, and also for those of you that's taken Bootcamp that I've learned, that know me, I always preach about taking risk size positioning. I don't ever do fixed size. I don't always trade 500 shares of something or 1,000 shares of something or 100 shares of something, because your risk is going to vary from trade to trade, right? My risk is going to be based off of my stop loss, right? So again, let's just say that, for instance, let's see, let me change the time frame on this. So remember, we're getting this buffered, so it takes time to catch up. So if I wanted to get into Apple, right, I got 297. I'm looking at $1 stop loss. Maybe I want to buy 300 shares, right? So I don't always hit my target. Like most people are like, if I can get $2 or $3 or whatever, I'm happy. I don't ever like to limit myself on the target itself, just because there's a good chance, yeah, I might get my $2 range, right? But what happens if the stock runs $5? Like I leave $3 on the table. If it runs $10, I leave $8 on the table. You roll 100 shares, that's anywhere from $300 to $800, right? That's profit. You need to be able to take as much profit as you can, because again, sometimes, like especially like in the most recent market right now, everything's kind of going haywire. Everything that is up is down. Everything that is down is up. Things that don't make sense. The market, we're not in the bull market anymore, right? We've entered bear territory. So you want to be able to, like, would I long anything for a period of time? I would not swing a long at all. I sure as hell wouldn't swing a short every night because you could potentially get crushed the next morning, right? You can blow up your entire account. But this market's not strong enough right now, right? Especially with all this coronavirus panic and stuff. You don't want to take out a lot of long. You don't want to marry these long positions, right? Like you don't want to marry them at all because again, these could be problematic for you. You have to take your profits when you can. Sometimes you have to get in there and slice and dice, right? You have to, you know, I guess what they call in the military turn and burn, right? You've got to be a sniper. You have to take your profits quick, um, and that's the whole point. Is this is what's so nice about it? And then of course, so maybe this is my play. Maybe I think like, okay, cool. I think I nailed it. So I can go ahead 3 minutes and say, okay, 3 4 minutes and say where I'm at. See now we're probably gonna get stopped out. So we would have lost on this trade. I'm almost certain we're gonna lose on this trade. So let's go forward a couple minutes. And the nice thing about this is that you don't have to sit and wait to see if your idea worked or not, right? So we moved ahead a couple minutes. We're still there. We're still up profit wise. Wow, look at that. Now we're really up profit wise. But this is how you can test your you can really test your skills, right? You can get repetitions, which remember, for those of you in our bootcamp classes, I tell you over and over, you need repetition, screen repetitions. Every time you take a trade, it's a repetition. Every time you dissect one of your trades, it's a repetition. Every time that you share one of your trades, it's a repetition. You need thousands and thousands of repetitions in order to get really really competent where everything becomes second nature, right? So let's just say, let me go ahead and let me run us out of this real quick here. Sorry for the alerts that's going on in the background. It's I have alerts that are set up based on things that occur on a certain time for certain patterns. But let's say that I want to go back to last year, right? Let's go back to December. No, let's go back to November the 22nd. Or better yet, you know what? Let's go back to September 10th. We'll go back to September 10th and let's look at TVIX then. Look how much. Wow, good lord. Now, this stock literally was $15 back then. They had a reverse split in November, right? So that's why it's crazy now. And it's hard to believe that the same stock that was like that averaged, $6 to $15 towards the end of last year is now at now got up to 400 and almost $500 on Friday pre-market, or Thursday pre-market, one of the days. It's just crazy, right? So again, this is what we're basing it off of is the price right now for this is 15.26, right? So what would you want to do on this day? You can go back and you can see how you can play certain stocks, right? UVXY runs with TVIX, right? We got the SPY, right? The SPY right here. We got SQQ, which is your inverse, right, of the TQQ, right? So we got TQQ is here as well. So maybe we want to play some of these things, right? We have SPXL, which is another ETF for the SPY, right? So you have different ways that you can go back and try different things. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you're into the pot stocks, right? So maybe you go back to the pot stocks here. Maybe we'll take Crone, right? So maybe we like Crone, right? So obviously, because we use risk size positioning, right there we don't probably only have maybe like 5 cent risk, right? So a 5 cent risk, maybe I'm going to buy 500 shares. Click buy. So 5 cent risk, 500 shares. What? That's like what? A 5 cent risk, 500 shares is what, $25 risk, right? So again, it could run, it could work. But this is, again, this whole thing is designed just to give you the ability to go back and to get more practice on your trades. And the cool thing about this is you can do this 24/7, right? So the market's not open, right? It's 5 o'clock. You can't paper trade on ThinkorSwim after 4 p.m. or before 9:30 a.m. But you can go back at any point in the day and you can trade this, right? Like you could even actually, if you want to get good at trading the pre-market, I believe this even has pre-market. Let's just go ahead here and let's just see how this trade would have worked out real quick. Let's just go ahead, I don't know, 20 or so minutes, right? And let's see. Wow, bam, look at that, awesome, right? So you could see like, hey, you know what? If I had played patient, this is where my trade would be at this point. You'd be up 130 bucks, right? So let's go ahead and get ourselves out of this trade. Obviously, like I said, flat and don't work, so no big deal. Good Lord. Nice. All right, so we're out of that trade. But again, let's see if we can do 4 a.m. Right? Let's see if we can do the pre-market on this day. I don't know that we can. We probably could. I don't know if there's any liquidity at this point for this stock at this time. Let's see. I'm pretty sure there is. Yep. So we could look. We could even do this in the pre-market, right? Nice. So again, you can do this on the weekends, right? The market's closed on the weekends. Maybe you got time on Saturday or Sunday, and you're like, I want to get more reps in. I want to trade this pattern. Then again, maybe you just want the ability to practice on your execution, right? So let's say that we're looking for, I don't know, something that happens at um, 9 o'clock, right? We'll call it 9:43. So we get 9:43. So maybe you see a pattern that is what you're trying to focus on perfecting, right? And again, you could say it's cheating because you already know how the stock's going to play out. But remember, we're trying to work on execution. We're trying to make this mind, muscle, memory connection, right? So you want to become like second nature. So we're at, no, we're not at, we need to change this to 9, which is 9:45. That's why, because we keep getting that extra. What the? There we go. So now we should be at 9:43. All right. So again, let's just say that you find a pattern. I don't know. Let's see what we got here. Let's say we're doing Apple. Matter of fact, let's change it to noon so we can see what patterns may have already emerged for the stock of this day. So if you want to focus on trading the open, right, we can go back here. We can say, okay, well, there's really no pattern that looks good on this. So maybe we'll go back here we'll change the 2 minutes and we'll see what the 2 minute chart look like. Let's zoom out a little bit so we got a little bit better view. I don't know. Maybe you got to pull back here to the 9, right? So you can say, okay, look, let's change this to 11:42. And you just, again, yes, you already know the trade's going to win, but you're trying to work on nailing your entry and exits, right? So you're anticipating, even though you might know what's going to happen, right? So we're looking here 11:42. So we're looking to place an order once it gets right above this 9 EMA. So at this point, we should already be trying to figure out what our stop loss should be, and what our entry should be, and what our potential reward is going to be. So we're trying to get everything all set up at this point, right? So I'm thinking right now, if it remounts to 9, it'll be 213.18, and my stop loss will probably be just under the VWAP, right? I mean, really not risking that much. Let's just say we're going to risk 20 cents on this bad boy. Matter of fact, let's make it 25. Let's be a little bit more conservative, just so we don't get stopped out. So once it remounts this 9, we can be looking to take this. We can even put in our order in anticipation, right? So maybe I want to buy at 12.13. So we bought right above the VWAP, right? So there's a good chance this could be a VWAP bounce, right? So it goes up and it comes down, bounces off the VWAP. Again, we don't know. No matter what pattern you're trying to be the master of, and again, I recommend that you find one or two patterns that you are going to become a master of, that you can see these patterns clearly, you know how to play them, you know the rules, you know the reward to risk that you're going to get. You want a low risk, high reward play, and then become a master at it, right? If you try to master all 20 something patterns that I teach you, or you try to do every pattern you see under the sun, whether you're watching other YouTube gurus or some trading guru who says, I've got the perfect play, this is the only pattern you're ever going to need, and you're like, I'm going to try that and I'm going to try this. You need to focus and learn and master one or two patterns. Again, most people for day trading, the market is the hottest usually at the opening, right, from 9:30 to about 10:30, 11 o'clock. Now that's kind of changed a lot in the last couple of weeks with the market being kind of flipped upside down. Typically, the midday and end of day has been the hotter plays, but in a regular market, right, where we're not dealing with what we're dealing with now, the opening is where you're going to make the majority of your money, and then midday you kind of sit around waiting for things to happen. Usually it's where you're going to get back a lot of your profits you took in the pre-market. But again, in the end of the day, that's usually you've got one or two stocks that make a nice move that if you're in on, you can have a nice end of your day. But the majority of your money is going to be made in the first hour of the open of the market, and those are the plays you want to be able to master, right? So we can see here is Apple, this trade that we took, it's pulsing, right? Because remember, even though we already know what the stock was doing, we wanted to be able to hit our entry, right? So we hit our entry good, right? We hit our entry. Actually, we got our entry in even before the 9 EMA, right? So of course, the first thing I want to do is once I start to get profit, I want to move my stop loss up. All right, as long as it fits my pattern, right? But I want to lock in to at least guarantee that I am not going to lose, right? So the worst that can happen at this point right now is I either get stopped out flat, which means I make no money, right? Or I lock in and I get stopped out and I make some money, right? But the most important thing is I'm not losing any money, right? I'm risk managing, right? A lot of people make the mistake and say, I'm a day trader, or I'm a swing trader. No, we're risk managers. We manage our risk. If you manage your risk and you keep your losses small and you allow your winners to run, you will be consistently profitable. You could take 100 trades and get stopped out, but if your risk is only $25, big deal, right? But let's say that you take the same 100 trades and you win, and those wins are $200, $300, right? If you keep your losses small, it don't matter. You could lose 1,000 times, right? You could lose 1,000 times, but let's say that your wins are you win 100 times versus 1,000 losses, but let's say your wins are 500, 1,000, 1,500. That $25 loss or $50 loss ain't gonna mean nothing in the long run, right? It's about letting your winners run and keeping and cutting your losers quickly, right? So again, this is kind of how I trade, right? I don't use ThinkorSwim, I use different software, but for the most part, this is how I trade. Very rarely will I ever use a defined target. And if it is, it's something really outlandish, right? So if I think that there's a chance that the stock could go parabolic very quickly, yeah, I will put in a target, right? But it will be a target that it won't be a realistic defined target, right? Like I won't say I want a $3 whatever. I might put in 15, 20, depending like with TVIX, I would put in a target of $50, right? If I can pull $50 a share, That's Bank City, baby, and that works for me, right? Because sometimes it's hard to catch things when they get to the top, and if I put a targeted up here, maybe it does get to here, Then again, maybe it doesn't, right? But this right here, trailing your stop up, is always going to guarantee that you're going to lock in, especially when you get profitable. You're always going to lock in your profits, right? So you're going to minimize any potential loss. So we're going to get stopped out here. But again, there you go. So that would have been a simple trade, right? So we nail our entry, right? We got a repetition. Now we go back and we dissect our trade, right? Another repetition. But this is why it's so nice is you can change this to anything. And then when you're done with when you're done with the on demand, you just go ahead and hit pause, right? Or I'm sorry, you hit the on demand again, and then it takes you right back, right? So we don't hit the pause, we just hit the on demand button, and it takes us back to real time. And if you ever want to go back to it again, on demand. So typically, this is what I'll do, and the only time that I'll use the on demand function, let's say that I had a stock that I could have played better, or something that maybe I screwed up my execution, or maybe it was a stock that was a loser and I couldn't figure out why, or maybe I just wanted another crack at it just for like a mulligan, so to speak, right? But again, I have to keep working at my executions as well, right? Because maybe I'm not trading a stock as often. Maybe I want to learn how that stock trades, right? So I can look back at a static chart, right? An image of a chart. I can go back here. Let's say I wanted to look at let's say I wanted to go back and I wanted to look at 5 days, 1 minute, right? So we can click out here. So I can look at this and say, oh, okay, well, I see how this stock played, right? And I can say, well, I would get in here, but I would get in there. Oh, I would sell here, and I would buy down here, and I would sell up here. It sounds great and all right, but it's a little bit different when it's happening in real time because you have to anticipate. You have to anticipate what's going to happen. You have to react. And sometimes you may not have very much opportunity to react, right? So let's just take a look right here. This is on Friday, right? On Friday. This is what happened. So remember, Trump came out and had his coronavirus press conference, right? When he was talking about what he was willing to do to help the nation. And look what happened with Apple. Like, Apple sat around and went sideways and consolidated. Just kind of went really sideways. There's not much price action, right? It's all in this range here. There's not much range at all. But then when Trump gave out his information, the markets responded favorably, and then bam, it jumped right up. This is a 5 minute chart, right? So if you were paying attention and anticipating, and let's say you got in at 261, you could have rode this bad boy up almost $18, right? So maybe this is something that you practice on. Okay, so I know it's going to happen at some point, so I want to nail my entry. Now, don't just be putting it in because you can. We're not taking paper trades for our egos. We're doing this so we can get better at our entry and exits, right? So again, if you ever want to go to on demand, just go up here and click this, and then you can put in whatever date that you want to replay. And again, you can have whatever stock list you want. You can even go to your predefined ones, right? Which is your public one. Well, yeah, the public ones these are all from ThinkorSwim, and they're nice. And the other thing too is I know for our Bootcamp students, I have shared some of my ThinkorSwim scans, right? So just so you know, I have scans that are for personal ones, right? The ones that I have actually input myself into ThinkorSwim. And many of these, they use studies, right? So if we go over here to the scan tab, and let me say I pick up, let's say I wanted to do a breakout only scan, right? Well, it has a study. On a paper trade account, you can't use this. You can't use a scan that has studies because they won't allow you to use a study in their scans, but you can on a live account. So maybe this is something that for those of you that want to be able to use these scans to kind of get an idea of how things work on a live account and what kind of results you can get. This might be a good idea to use with the on-demand function and feature as well, because again, the on-demand function everything goes based off of that time period. So the whatever I have here for pre-market gappers is going to change dramatically. Like here, I'll just show you real quick. We can go into here, and I can say, hey, we're going to do September, whatever. And that's going to change on this time. So all of a sudden, these things are going to be much different on this day. So it's going to give me different scan results, right? Different stocks. So I can say, well, if this is the see now these right here, they weren't even. I don't even think these stocks were available at this point. But these other ones, now these are just on my other watch list. So, but again, this is on this day, right? So we can see on this day, yeah, this is the stock move, right? So all this information is absolutely correct. It would show up on my scan, right? And again, for those of you that don't know how to create a watch list from a scan, all you have to do is any scan that you make here, right? Any scan that you make and save here, you can go over here, right? Once you give it your scan a name, it will show up under personal, and you can go down there and click any one of these, and this will make its own watch list. So this is a scan that's running the entire time for you. So maybe I want to change this to, let's say I want it to be my intraday mover scan, right? And it will populate there, and it will run the criteria that I have for my scan all day long, and it will pop up stuff on my list. So at any point, if I say, hey, you know what, I want to see what's going on, I want, maybe I need a trade, maybe I'm looking for a new idea. Um, you know, again, you could do things like the pre-market mover scan that they have, and this one comes directly from ThinkorSwim. Now, it may not populate. Not really sure. Again, I'm not sure the limitations that the on-demand function has, but I know if I look for, let's see, pre-market gapper scan, right? So I usually run this one quite a bit. And it gives me really, really good ideas. Now, again, when I say I run it quite a bit, it's when I actually run ThinkorSwim, right? For the most part, I'll use things like trade ideas, or I'll use the scans in TC2000, which are, I feel personally, now again, I'm not saying this is for everybody, I feel that TC2000 is more configurable, it's more flexible, and gives me better results. But for those of you that don't want to spend the extra money on something like that, ThinkorSwim has the ability. It's just you have to know what you're scanning. Sometimes you have to know how to program things. Like, just to give you an example, let me pull up one of my scans here. I don't know if it's gonna let me hit my scan tab. For whatever reason, it's not gonna let me hit my scan tab, but that's fine. Anyways, to get back out, you just hit on demand. All right. So hopefully this was informative, and it gives you an idea and actually opens up your eyes to the fact that just because Friday hits and the markets close from Friday at 8 o'clock to Monday morning at 4 a.m. For pre-market hours, that you can't do anything, like, oh, this is boring. Yeah, you can still work on this over the weekend, right? So if you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions, anything you would like for me to cover in the future, please don't hesitate to let me know. And thanks, guys. And hopefully you're all staying safe and taking precautions so you don't get sick. All right? Have fun.